Welcome back. My name is Shakil Salam and you're watching The Health Show. I'm more relaxed now. This is thanks
It's worked.
thanks to our Dr. Asad Sadiq, who is consultant psychiatrist, and we're talking about and exploring mental health and well-being. We talked about depression, the causes of it. We have a lot of discussion and of course your phone calls. This bit is really important because what we're going to do is we're going to focus on help and support, what is available, how some practical steps we can use to become happy and don't become sad. So Don't Be Sad is based on a book, isn't it? It's the book.
It is, yeah.
And it's a very good book.
It's a fantastic book.
And you introduced me to that book.
Yeah.
And in fact, my family got the book, and in fact, my uncle have a translated version. He's got a book in Urdu.
It's in Urdu as well.
It's in Urdu as well.
Right, yeah.
So tell me a bit about this background of this Don't Be Sad, the title we chosen, and the book you introduced me to.
So the book basically gives lots of examples of, it's got quite a few what we call cognitive approaches, which is, the way you look at things, but from a religious context. So it's actually very, very beneficial, and that's the book. I read it sometimes too.
You do?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I'm a little bit. So yeah, it does help actually. It's a fantastic book.
So consultant psychiatrists can get a bit down as well sometimes.
Of course, we get down all the time.
Right, okay. Is there a pressure of
You'd
work?
You'd be surprised actually. Mental illness itself is common among psychiatrists too. It's not uncommon. Yeah, absolutely. And
some people resort to the smoking as option. Is that true that smoking will give you a bit of satisfaction and less stress?
No, smoking's of no benefit whatsoever.
But I've seen a lot of friends, smoke and saying, well, every time I'm depressed.
It sort of reduces a bit of, look, at the end of the day, to take your mind off things, you can, there's lots of options out there. Drugs will do the same, alcohol, absolutely. But the harm these things do is massive. So, that's not the solution or the answer, really.
So, Don't Be Sad is that book, and it's got a lot of practical advice, and you recommend, that people should be...
I should have bought it, to be honest, I forgot.
Well, I should have bought it as well, but my wife lent it to a friend, so I don't have a copy either, but yeah, it's a very good book.
Maybe at a future show you could just
well, we'll inshallah, hopefully you'll come back again.
Inshallah, yeah, sure.
If you're not too stressed.
No, it's been good.
So let's look at some practical tips, how... first of all, when do we need help? When do you think, what stage we need to go out and say, well, I think I'm struggling, I need some help?
So when it's impacting on your life. So for example, if you're working, you can't work anymore, or you start to take a lot of days off, or it impacts on your relationship, or you don't have the motivation, it affects your functioning, then it's really time to get help. And help, the GP is a very good place to start to get help.
Is anger part of depression as well? Do you get angry as well, or is it?
Not really. It can be. You can be angry and have depression too, but anger in itself is a problem in itself. Some people are.
It's a separate subject altogether.
It's a whole. I can talk for an hour and a half, 2 hours about anger. Just in itself.
So we need to look at anger management as well.
Yes, anger management, that's a topic. Again, it's a whole topic in itself.
We need to do a show on that as well.
Yes, we can do a show on anger.
So communication is the key thing. But when do you need to get some medical help? And when you need to go and see a doctor?
So medical help is, for example, I talked about depression before.
Yeah. And
it starts to affect your function, like I said. And at that time, you do need medical help because it reaches a stage where there's very little you can do, and you do need external help. Then it's time to go to the GPs, as I said, is the first.
So the first point of contact is going to see your local GP.
That's right. Yeah.
And GP will give you antidepressant and
not necessarily, no, because antidepressants aren't the solution. They are for severe depression, but for the milder forms of depression, they will refer you for talking therapies, where you talk to people who are not concerned. There's things like CBT, you might have heard about it, cognitive behavioural therapy and so on. So they'll refer you to psychology or psychological services. So all that option is there, but the GP will know what to do, so that's a good place to start.
Talking therapy, just communication is key part of the solution, isn't it?
Yes, it is, absolutely.
And the mental health services are designed to support you in different stages.
Yes, yes.
Okay. But is there anything person can do themselves to support and become out of depression, anxiety, mental health?
So we know exercise helps a lot.
So going to gym.
So going for a
walking.
walk every day. Do you know one of the things which breaks down with mental illness and especially depression is routine. So to get some sort of routine going is a very important first step. And one key thing is to go for a walk at a regular time every day without fail, whatever the weather is.
And it's probably good to go
That
as a
really
family
helps
as well,
in itself.
isn't it? Yeah.
Well, just that person who's depressed, if they can go out every day at the same time for a walk, that is really, really beneficial.
So it's the routine,
Yes.
and getting fresh air.
Yes, routine and exercise, actually. So I say going for a walk is, I mean, it could be gym or
Yeah.
something else, but exercise in itself is very beneficial. And then eating well, obviously, is important
Eating well,
too.
yeah. I was going to say, you know, you mentioned about depression, and when people are depressed, they go off the food, they don't eat much.
Yeah.
I notice sometimes people actually eat loads as well.
You can get the opposite too.
Is that
yes,
is
yes,
that
that's recognised.
part of thing as well? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not very good for your health, is it?
No, it's absolutely not. No, you can get the opposite
So
too.
exercise, healthy eating,
Yeah.
and exercise.
I think not being alone for most of the time is important too.
So, yeah.
Social contact is although you do lose confidence when you're depressed, so you don't feel like talking to people or whatever.
So
But
it's
I think
vicious circle, isn't it?
it is a vicious circle, yeah. So you lose confidence, you don't want to talk to anybody, and then that makes it worse. You lose more confidence, you stay indoors all the time. You can see that, can't you, that vicious circle? But that's how you have to break it, with routine, exercise, trying to be around people or somebody around there at least, because then the loneliness isn't there all the time, which has a massive impact too.
You know, mental health, depression, anxiety,
Yeah.
is it linked to poverty? Because I heard a lot of Asian parents saying, well, we were depressed because we didn't have enough food, we didn't have clothes, we didn't have all the facilities. And they don't understand why children now are depressed when they got all the games, big TV, a car to run, and all that. So is there any link with poverty and depression?
So there is a link with deprivation. Yes, it's quite a strong link. But I think the thing is, you know, when you have enough, it's interesting. But I was talking to a group just a couple of weeks ago. You know, a group that come from Pakistan, and I was saying to them, like, when you were back home, what was it? Because you were poorer than when you were over there. Why were, and they all said the same thing. It was, but there were lots of people around. Do you know what I mean?
And that's the key factor, isn't it?
That's the key factor. There were people, you know, you had your brothers and sisters and friends and everybody around. So you had a lot of social support. So if the social support's there, then poverty isn't much of an issue.
So social support is the key thing.
Social support's very key, yes.
Yeah. But another thing you mentioned about it, you know, when community, because mental health has stigma attached to it, people say, oh, don't worry, it's going to be all right. You know, if you're really depressed about either your job or bereavement or family relationship, worried about your children, and you're really sort of depressed, but somebody tells us, no, get up, don't worry. Do you think our community need to understand as well? Because sometimes we just say, well, don't worry, but it's not, you know.
Absolutely, we do need to understand about sort of depression and anxiety, and there is, I mean, I try to do a fair bit. I'm doing a talk this Saturday just coming
Oh, mashallah.
at Khizra in Cheetham Hill, Manchester.
Yeah.
So I think that's Saturday lunchtime. I've forgotten the time now.
Okay.
But so there are things, you know, education.
So education is the key thing,
education
isn't
is the
it?
key. We need to tell people about it, and you know, if we talk about it, then it becomes more receptible too.
So talking is
Yeah.
perfect solution, isn't it? At least first step towards
Yeah, we
becoming
need,
happy.
we need to raise awareness of mental illness.
Yeah.
And I think I've told you before as well that, you know, in Islamic history,
Yeah.
okay, in the stigma is massive now, because we, you know, for people, anybody who's suffering with mental illness, we just say the word pagal, isn't it? You know.
And that's very common, isn't it?
Do you know in Pakistan what they call psychiatrists?
Yes.
What do they call them?
Paglunga doctor.
Pagalonka doctor. I mean, just look, isn't that absurd?
Yeah.
The word pagal, what does it mean? Stupid. Yeah. the doctor of stupid people. I mean,
or mad.
That's just terrible, mad, stupid, or whatever.
Yeah.
So the key is in the Abbasid times, in the 800s, okay, people with mental illness and learning disability, they were respected because what the society noticed was that they always spoke the truth. So the mental hospitals of them days were like palaces. They had fountains and amazing gardens and doctors, and people were looked after really well.
Really?
And look how backward we've come now, where we use words like pagal. And some of the mental health facilities in some Muslim countries, I mean Lahore, I've seen one of them, one or two when I've been, they're terrible. And it's just the total opposite. So, you know, if you look at in the history of Muslims, stigma was much less before 1,100 years ago. We've gone backwards.
All right, that's fascinating, you know.
That's very sad, isn't it, really?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, looking at becoming happy.
Tips.
Yeah. The key tips, because you can't force somebody to happy. You know,
No.
people have to be naturally happy. You can't pretend.
Yeah.
You know, because that's not natural, is it? You know, you need to be really happy.
Yeah.
How can we make people happy?
I think the search for happiness and making people happiness, forget that as a question, okay?
Yeah, you can't buy happiness.
When you search for happiness, you'll never find it.
Not even Google.
No, not even Google. You'll never find happiness. Yeah. So if you take that out of the equation, so throw happiness out of the window, and just say what are the things which will benefit us and which will be good for us. There's 3 or 4 tips that I will give. These are things that I've learned personally and professionally over the last sort of 10, 15 years. The most important skill of all, okay, is listening.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm listening to you. Yeah.
You're listening maybe 80%, 70%, because the way I know you're listening is if, let's say I'm talking now and you ask me a question which is about what I've just said, then I know you're listening to me. If you ask me a different question, then I know you've not listened to what I've said.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's simple. So what we do is we're always thinking, what are we going to say next? What are we going to say next? Do you know if when somebody really listens to us and gives us their whole attention,
importance.
We feel brilliant.
Absolutely.
We feel like that's what our friends do. They make us feel good, you see. So the point is that we don't listen to each other anymore because, you know, we're always distracted. Loads of distractions. There's the phone or thinking what we're going to say next, or there's so many things. So even so this is a skill which needs to be developed. And again, there's another
subject altogether.
It's another subject altogether. But just try to listen and give someone your whole attention. I mean whole attention, so your mind's not elsewhere. Really focus on the other person. So that's the first sort of tip. You know, I did a talk once at a mosque on depression. You know, the one tip I gave at the end for the mosque was, if everybody, when the child comes to the mosque, if every adult said salam to the child properly and looked to the child eye to eye, that would solve many of the problems in the mosque. A very simple thing, because if you can learn to give your attention and focus to a child, then you can give it to anybody else too.
So the child will feel valued.
Yeah. And you'll develop that skill too, of making people feel valued.
Yeah.
And if everybody in the mosque did that, it would create a wonderful atmosphere and environment. That's just a tip about listening and giving someone your whole attention. So that's one of them. Okay. The next one is curiosity. Try to learn something new every day.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you're watching Ummah channel. My name is Shakil Salam, and this is the Health Show. We're talking about depression, anxiety. We're talking about various subjects, and this is the crucial bit. We're looking at the tips, how to become happy, how to become stress-free. With little changes, you can make a huge difference. Communication, talking to other people, listening skills, and also making friends, talking to people you can trust, and seeking help and advice at very early stage. These are the crucial things. We can all be happy. You don't need a degree in that. So,
Shakita, I just want to say this. This is important. You know, I said before that we need people to listen to us.
Yeah. Okay.
That can, and this is really important, that can only happen if we listen to people.
It's two-way process.
Then they'll be there for us too. Absolutely. So we give, and if you give lots of people, whoever you meet, just practice it. practice giving people your whole attention, your whole concentration, and listening to them, and people will listen to you too. Because that's what you can do. I can't make people listen to me, but I can listen to the people, and they will reciprocate. Yes.
So you're saying it's the process, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not one-way traffic.
Yeah.
It's the both way.
So this is what you can do, you see. The other thing I said was about curiosity. That's something that you can do, learn something new. If you come across something you've not read it before, go and look it up in a book, go and do something, you know what I mean? So be curious, learn about the world. And just these two things, because I can sit there and give you 20 tips, okay, but they'll go straight out of, in one ear out of the other. But just, one or two things for people to focus. If I had to give two, these would be the two most important ones.
So learn some new skills and be curious.
New information, anything new.
New information, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? For example, somebody might be watching Ummah Channel today, and they might be curious and think, oh, I wonder how long Ummah Channel's been going on for.
And they have to do a bit of research.
And just sort of find, and then they might find something else interesting. And like that, having a curious mind all the time, you develop that as a mindset.
And you touched a bit on social media. It has major impact on people. You mentioned about the card for sympathy and, but now I even notice, that even bereavement messages go on social media, on Facebook and WhatsApp, people just saying inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un.
That's right.
And that's from our contribution to that, which I think is the sad reality, isn't it? Because there's no communication. There's a communication, but it's silent communication, I think.
Let me tell you about something about communication. What percentage of communication do you think is verbal? What I mean by verbal is, what we say to each other. What percentage would you guess?
I have no idea.
15%.
Really?
85% of communication is body language.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right.
85%, okay? So when you communicate on this, it's only words. And out of that 15%, half of it is to do with the tone in which you speak and so on and things like this. So less than 10% of communication is when we send messages on WhatsApp and text messages and stuff.
So it's mostly, it's about the way you have movements, the expression. Yeah. These are the crucial bit, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm sitting here with you. Do you know, if we were talking on text message, there'd be none of the warmth, there'd be none of the, I feel warm towards you now. We're sitting here having a conversation. It's nice, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Good eye contact, relaxed. We could talk for another 1.5 hours. But I mean, if we were doing this on text message, that's 90% of the communication taken out. So it would be 10% of what we've got now, talking face to face.
Absolutely. And that's really crucial, we are nearly towards the end of the show. But before we go, I think, is there any recommendation, we talked about Don't Be Sad is the book, but is there any other recommended reading or any activities we can do? You said walking is good.
Yeah. Okay, you just said the first one.
Yeah.
Reading. Now so it's not recommended reading, but I'm recommending reading.
Right, okay.
Yeah? Yes. And that's really important because, I said about knowledge and curiosity. Yeah. I mean, one of the things which, again, disappoints me, especially about, our community, nobody reads anymore. Honestly, there's so many houses I go to, there's no books there at all.
No.
And I just find that astonishing because books, there's whole worlds. Each book is a whole world in itself. Do you know what I mean? You really manage to get out of yourself through reading. When I was saying before that getting out of yourself, one is doing things for other people, and what curiosity allows you to do is to get out of yourself too, by looking at the world and stuff. And often it's quite hard to travel far away places, but books you have there in your house, and it's literally, you can sometimes learn more from a book than you can from years of experiences. Do you know what I mean? So reading itself is a key thing, which is very important.
Yeah. And as I said, this was the first sort of relaxed show.
Yeah.
I think what we can do is we can plan it and look at, because we more or less, it was quick.
Well, you only told me 2-3 days ago.
Yeah.
So.
Very, very good. And I'm really delighted,
to be honest. Yeah.
I'm really delighted, and I think, to be honest, it worked well because it was a relaxed show.
Yeah.
I think I'm glad they've given us these chairs as well,
Yeah.
so it make it much more interesting. And I think some of the discussion we had, it was just flowing, in a way. But important thing is it actually touched a lot of hearts. The people who are going through some of the anxiety or depression, they actually recognize a lot of things what you talked about it, and some of the feedback we're getting is very positive. So that is the starting. So you said, in a way, I think we start this ball rolling. We invited you and started a bit of information giving, a bit of awareness session, and I think that's the starting point from our point of view. And I think if everybody take at least one good bit from our show today,
Inshallah,
and take an action and do something like walking, reading the book, Don't Be Sad, to anything else, but it's the other thing is doing something, helping other people, making friends, talking to people you can trust, be open about things. One of the things about our community is that sometimes either because of the respect or the community sort of pressure, we sort of very limited how we can express things, and things are changing rapidly. Social media is changing our lifestyle. There was a time we got time to ourselves. Now life is busy, and when you talk to people, what we're doing, if we reflect it, it's very much going from A to B and coming back.
That's right, yeah.
But we're still very busy. We don't have time to go and visit family. We don't have time to visit relatives, friends.
Isn't it interesting, Shakil Saab, that nowadays we should have more time than before, because before we had to go to the post office, we had to go to the travel agent, now we don't have to do anything, we do it in 2 minutes.
Online.
But yet we've got less time. How does that work?
This is the amazing thing, isn't it?
Yes.
So I think we can make time. It have to be.
That's right. We have time, but we choose not to make time. We have more time than ever before because everything's automated.
Yes.
That's the paradox.
Absolutely fine. Tell me a bit about, we didn't talk about you, you're a consultant psychiatrist. How long you been practicing?
As a psychiatrist now, 15 years, which is quite a long time. Right. I've been a consultant for 8 years.
And you've given a lot of talks. The last time when we did Urdu program, you came out of this conference. I think you were going to a conference in Rochdale, and it was all about Islamic concept of mental health, and and you talked about it as well, and you do a lot of talks and public speaking as well. Were you born and brought up in UK or?
No, I was born in Pakistan, Gujarat.
MashaAllah.
And 6 months old.
You were 6 months old
when I came here. That's right.
So more or less you're right.
So I've been here. Yeah, that's right.
So apart from 6 months of your life, so your rest of your life.
That's right. But it was an important 6 months.
Important 6 months. So did you go back and reflect on your? Do you go back to
Pakistan? Absolutely. Yeah, I try to go most years.
Right,
more or less every year. In the summer months.
Yeah, in summer, isn't it?
Yeah. Take the children as well.
Yeah, that's another thing, isn't it?
Actually, I'm just going to say salam to Mohsin, Sophia and Zahra. They're watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the final key message from you.
And my niece Alia as well.
Alia as well. That's really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they're all watching you, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, to end the program, just summarize what we talked about it in a couple of minutes.
Okay. So basically, mental illnesses, they arise when you get to a certain extreme or edge of normal experience, okay? And it's normally caused by stresses and strains and so on, which are ongoing. To prevent that, there's lots of things that we can do. And the key things are, like I said before, doing things for other people, spending your time, effort, energy, money on other people rather than yourself. Because you see, the drive, again, this is a whole different thing from society, is to spend on yourself, this individualism. Margaret Thatcher very famously said in the 1980s, there is no such thing as society, it's only a collection of individuals and their families. Yes, I don't believe that. I think that's very destructive. I think the more we do for our community and for other people, the better it is for our mental health. And the key skill in doing this is through listening and giving your attention and focus to other people. It doesn't cost anything, it's a small thing, but this is an important thing. And the other one I've mentioned is obviously curiosity to learn new things and to read. And like you said, regular routine exercise is very important. And these are the key things which will stop you from going to that place. Like the sister said, it's about forming the relationships and the social support before things go wrong.
Yeah.
Because things will go wrong for everybody. It's just around the corner. Deaths, illnesses, all sorts of things can go wrong. Have that support there.
And with that very positive message, can I just say a big thank you from me, from Ummah Channel, and from all of our viewers across Europe.
Jazakallah for inviting me. And
Jazakallah for traveling, because I know it was short notice and you've been busy all day today.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for us to give time to families and friends. But this is your big family here.
It is.
So massive people, and I think we are extending that. So I think it was a very positive message. I really enjoyed talking to you today. Love you to come back again, and we will have more structure to the program. So this was just a starting point, that we can talk about anything and everything. Probably different set, probably be more warmer, hopefully. Yeah. Okay. So with that note, can I say thank you very much and Jazakallah. This was Dr. Asad Sadiq, mashallah. A fantastic discussion we had on mental health, a taboo subject, a subject perhaps culturally we're not used to talk about it, but I think it's time and we started it. The topic was don't be sad, we want you to be happy, and please take 1 or 2 tips from today's show. Inshallah, I will see you again next week with a new topic and with new guest. Take care and look after your health. Assalamu alaikum.